Ladies, imagine for a moment that you are walking through the world unseen, not because no one is looking, but because no one tells you what they see. Men are silent observers, absorbing details in ways that often escape the conscious mind. You may believe that what captivates is what is obvious, your beauty, your style, the things you intentionally present, but the truth is far more subtle. What if I told you that the most mesmerizing things about you are not the ones you try to showcase, but the ones you don't even realize you reveal? What if I told you that the things men notice most, those that truly leave an imprint, are the very things you overlook? This is not about cliches or superficial compliments. It is about the profound, unspoken language of presence, how your smallest gestures, your energy, even the rhythm of your breath, weave a narrative more powerful than words. The moment you walk into a room, something shifts. It's not just your appearance, nor the sound of your voice. It's the energy you bring, the way you glance around, the way you pause before stepping forward, the way your presence fills the air. You see, men don't just notice how you look, they notice how you make a place feel. Do you move with ease as though the world welcomes you, or do you shrink into the background as though you are apologizing for taking up space? Confidence, or the lack of it, is not something you declare, it's something you exude. And men, they see it long before they hear you speak. To a woman's face is an ocean of subtle movements, unfiltered reactions that tell more truth than any words ever could. The flicker of curiosity in your eyes when you hear something intriguing, the way your lips part slightly when you're about to say something meaningful, the micro smile that appears before you even realize you're amused. Men just notice these things, they remember them. These are the fragments of authenticity that linger long after the conversation is over. A forced smile is forgettable, an unconscious one is unforgettable. Watch a woman brush her fingers over the edge of a glass, tuck her hair behind her ear, or trace patterns absent-mindedly on the table. These are gestures that men notice in ways even they cannot fully explain. Why? Because movement is a form of expression. It is poetry without words. It speaks of grace, presence, comfort in one's own skin. A woman who moves with natural ease captivates, not because she is performing, but because she simply is. Words are only a fraction of communication. A woman's energy, her calmness, her excitement, her warmth, or her distance is like an atmosphere that lingers around her. A man may not always be able to articulate it, but he feels it. The way you react to stillness, the way you handle discomfort, the way you embrace or resist the moment, all of this tells a story. You may think men only hear what you say, but in truth they are always listening to the silence between your words. You see, the irony is this. What men notice most are the things you do not try to make them notice. It is not in the grand performances nor the deliberate displays. It is in the effortless, the unnoticed, the in-between moments of being. So the next time you wonder what truly captivates, remember this. It is not in the perfection you present, but in the authenticity you allow to simply exist. And that, perhaps, is the most beautiful thing of all. Men are often perceived as unobservant, their awareness dismissed as surface level, fixated on the most apparent and overt aspects of a woman's presence. But beneath this misconception lies a truth far more intricate. Men notice much more than they let on, and their attention operates in ways that even they may not fully articulate. It is not just about looking, it is about absorbing, about perceiving nuances that exist beyond the threshold of conscious acknowledgement. It is an intuitive process, subtle and reflexive, where details are gathered not with intention but through immersion. A woman may enter a room believing that only her carefully curated elements, the choice of dress, the shade of lipstick, the deliberate sway in her step, are what capture attention. And while these things certainly contribute, they are not the essence of what truly lingers in a man's awareness. Instead, it is the small, uncalculated moments that register most profoundly. The way she absent-mindedly adjusts her sleeve while deep in thought, the fleeting expression of curiosity that flickers across her face when she overhears something intriguing, the rhythm of her breath when she is completely at ease. These are the details that, though unnoticed by herself, are quietly observed. There is a certain magnetism in authenticity, a power in the moments that are untouched by performance. A man may not remember the exact words a woman spoke, but he will recall the way she tilted her head as she listened, the way her fingers played with the stem of her glass as she spoke, the warmth or hesitance in her presence. This is because attraction, interest, and even admiration are rarely built upon what is consciously displayed. They are instead shaped by the unspoken, the effortless, the echoes of a person's being that ripple into another's awareness. Men do not simply see a woman, they sense her. They feel the shifts in her energy, the contrast between her confidence and her uncertainty, the presence or absence of ease in her skin, the way she carries herself in solitude, how she reacts to silence, whether she seeks attention or moves through the world with quiet assurance. All of these elements, unnoticed by herself, form the foundation of what a man perceives. And what is fascinating is that the less a woman tries to be noticed, the more she often is. There is a paradox in awareness. The effort to be seen can sometimes obscure that which is most naturally captivating. When a woman is fully present in herself, unburdened by the need to be observed, she radiates something intangible yet undeniable. It is not the constructed persona that draws attention, but the effortless presence beneath it. And this, more than any deliberate attempt at allure, is what lingers in the consciousness of those who truly see. Attraction is often framed as something visual, a matter of symmetry, proportion, and style. But while these elements may initially draw the eye, they do not hold attention in the way that deeper, more elusive qualities do. The truth is, men notice far more than just a woman's appearance. What captivates them goes beyond the obvious, beyond what can be seen at a glance. It is the intangible essence of a woman, how she carries herself, the energy she exudes, the depth behind her eyes, that leaves an impression long after the surface details fade from memory. A woman may believe that her beauty is defined by the way she styles her hair or the shade of her lipstick, but what truly lingers in a man's mind is something far less tangible. It is the way she looks when she is lost in thought, unaware that anyone is watching. It is the way she listens, fully engaged, her expression shifting in response to the words spoken to her. It is the subtle interplay of her confidence and vulnerability, the way she occupies space with either certainty or hesitation. These are the details that men absorb without consciously realizing it, the quiet markers of presence that make a woman unforgettable. There is an undeniable force in authenticity, in a woman who does not seek to be admired but simply exists in a state of natural ease. Men notice the difference between someone who is performing for attention and someone who is effortlessly herself. There is an inherent beauty in a woman who does not force attraction but allows it to arise naturally. It is not in the way she presents herself to the world, but in the way she interacts with it. Whether she moves with grace or uncertainty, whether she laughs freely or hesitates, whether she is present or distracted, these nuances may seem insignificant, but they create an unspoken dialogue, an energy that speaks louder than words. A man may not be able to explain why he is drawn to a particular woman, why her presence lingers in his mind while another's fades. He may not articulate the way her voice carried a warmth that felt familiar, or how the light in her eyes shifted when she was deeply engaged in a conversation. But these are the things that matter, the things that go beyond beauty. A woman's essence is not something that can be applied like makeup or rehearsed in the mirror. It is the quiet confidence of someone who is truly at home in herself. And in the end, it is not the perfection of a woman's appearance that captivates, but the depth of what lies beneath it. There is a language that exists beyond words, a silent poetry woven into the way a person moves. It is an unspoken expression, effortless and revealing, unnoticed by the one who speaks it, yet deeply felt by those who observe. Men though they may not always articulate it, are keenly attuned to this language. They notice the way a woman moves through the world, not just how she walks, but how she carries herself, how she interacts with the space around her, how she responds to the invisible rhythms of life. It is not about perfection, nor is it about deliberate grace. It is about authenticity. The way a woman tucks a stray strand of hair behind her ear, the slight hesitation before she steps forward, the fluidity or stiffness in her posture, all of these things whisper unspoken truths about her. When she is at ease, her movements are unguarded, effortless, and natural. When she is uncertain, there is a slight rigidity, a pause, a carefulness that speaks louder than words. These are not judgments, but impressions, gathered instinctively and absorbed in ways even the observer does not always realize. A woman may spend hours choosing the perfect outfit or perfecting her appearance, but it is the way she moves within that presentation that truly shapes perception. Confidence is not in the height of the heels, but in the way she walks in them. It is not in the elegance of the dress, but in the way she inhabits it. The fabric of attraction is woven not just from appearance, but from presence. The subtle, unconscious signals that reveal whether a person is fully alive in their own skin or merely occupying it. Men notice when a woman moves with purpose, when there is a certain rhythm to her steps, a quiet command of space. They notice the way she reaches for a glass, the way she shifts her weight when she stands, the way her body responds to laughter, whether she holds it back or lets it move through her freely. It is in these moments of unconscious expression that a person's essence is revealed. There is something profoundly magnetic about someone who is completely at home in their own being, someone who does not shrink to fit the world around them, but expands naturally into it. What captivates is not an effort to be noticed, but a presence that cannot help but be felt. A woman who moves without self-consciousness, who embraces her space without hesitation, draws attention not because she is trying to, but because she simply exists in harmony with herself. And in the quiet perception of those who observe, it is these fleeting, unguarded moments that leave the most lasting impression. Confidence is often misunderstood as something loud, something performed, something that demands attention. But true confidence is rarely the thing that shouts. It is the thing that simply is. It does not need to be declared because it is felt. And men, whether consciously or not, notice this in a woman long before she speaks a word. It is in the way she moves, the way she occupies space, the way she responds to the world around her. It is not about arrogance or dominance. It is about an unshakable comfort in one's own presence. A woman's relationship with herself is visible in everything she does. It is in the way she walks into a room, whether she hesitates at the door or steps forward with quiet certainty. It is in the way she meets someone's gaze, whether her eyes dart away too soon or linger just long enough to acknowledge another's presence. It is in the way she carries silence, whether she fidgets through it or rests within it, as if she belongs there. Confidence is not always loud. Sometimes it is as simple as existing without apology. Men notice when a woman is at ease in her own skin, not because she is trying to be, but because she just is. There is no need to over-explain, no need to prove, no need to seek validation. She does not force herself to be noticed, yet she is. She does not beg for attention, yet she holds it. There is something magnetic about a person who is not looking for permission to be themselves. And when a woman carries this kind of presence, it is impossible not to see it. But confidence is not just about external posture. It is something deeper, something internal that radiates outward. It is not the absence of insecurity, but the refusal to let insecurity define one's existence. It is the ability to own one's flaws without letting them diminish one's worth. It is the quiet assurance of someone who does not need to be the loudest in the room to be heard. And this, more than any outward display, is what men truly notice. What is fascinating is that confidence does not require perfection. It does not demand flawless beauty, nor does it need to be constantly asserted. In fact, the most powerful kind of confidence is the one that is not concerned with being seen at all. It is the kind that exists in the way a woman carries herself when no one is watching. in the way she treats herself when there is no audience, because confidence is not about convincing others. It is about knowing deeply that there is nothing to prove, and that in itself is what makes it impossible to ignore. Long after a conversation has ended, long after a woman has left the room, something remains. It is not just the memory of her words or the details of her appearance, but the feeling she left behind, the energy she carried, the emotional imprint she unknowingly cast upon the moment. Men may not always be able to articulate it, but they notice this deeply. They feel it in ways they do not fully understand, in ways that linger beyond logic and reason. Every person carries a certain emotional resonance, a silent undercurrent that affects those around them. A woman who moves through the world with warmth, with ease, with an openness to experience, leaves behind a presence that is remembered, not because she tried to, but because she simply was. Conversely, a woman who carries tension, who holds back, who moves through life with an invisible weight on her shoulders, leaves an impression just as strong, not through words or actions, but through an energy that speaks for itself. Men notice when a woman is genuinely happy, not just performing happiness. They notice when her laughter is real, when her curiosity is unfiltered, when her presence brings lightness to a room rather than taking from it. They also notice the opposite, the hesitation in her movements, the guarded way she speaks, the way she keeps a part of herself hidden. Even without words, these things are felt. They leave an echo, a presence that lingers. It is not about being joyful all the time or pretending to be something one is not. It is about the truth that a person carries within them, the emotions they allow themselves to fully feel, and the energy they unconsciously share with the world. When a woman is comfortable in her emotions, whether they are joyful, reflective, or even melancholic, there is something profoundly magnetic about it. It is not about being perfect, but about being present, about allowing one's emotions to be felt fully rather than masked or manipulated. There is an undeniable difference between someone who moves through life with a sense of ease and someone who carries invisible barriers. The way a woman interacts with the world, whether she embraces it or holds herself back, creates an emotional aftertaste, a lingering effect that is far more powerful than she may realize. Men may not always be able to name what they are noticing, but they feel it deeply. It is why some presences are missed even in their absence, and why others fade away despite being physically present. The energy a woman carries is a language in itself, one that speaks beyond words, beyond appearance, beyond the surface. It is not what she says, but what she leaves behind. And in the quiet moments of reflection, when all else has faded, it is this emotional echo that remains. There is an irony in human nature, a contradiction that plays out in the way attraction unfolds. The more a person tries to be noticed, the more their efforts seem to blur into the background. And yet, those who move through life with no intention of drawing attention, who simply exist as they are, become the ones who captivate the most. This is the paradox of awareness. The less a woman tries to be seen, the more profoundly she is. Men are not always drawn to the loudest presence in the room, nor to the most obviously put-together woman. Instead, they notice something subtler, something unforced. It is the way she loses herself in a moment, the way she forgets to perform, the way she exists when she is unaware of being observed. There is an undeniable magnetism in authenticity, and a presence that is effortless rather than engineered. A woman does not have to declare herself beautiful, interesting, or desirable. Those qualities become self-evident when she is at ease in her own being. Trying too hard to be noticed often has the opposite effect. It introduces a strain, a sense of effort that disrupts the natural flow of attraction. Men sense this, even if they cannot always explain it. They feel when someone is presenting a version of themselves rather than simply being. There is a difference between the woman who laughs because she is truly amused and the one who laughs because she wants to be perceived as fun. There is a difference between the woman who wears confidence like a natural extension of herself and the one who wears it like an armor, seeking validation in return. These differences may be small, but they are deeply felt. What is captivating is not perfection, but presence. A woman who is absorbed in her own world, unbothered by whether or not she is being noticed, radiates something rare. It is not indifference, nor is it arrogance. It is a quiet confidence that speaks without words. She does not shrink herself to be more palatable, nor does she inflate herself to demand attention. She simply exists fully, and in that existence, she becomes unforgettable. Men do not just notice beauty, they notice the way a person inhabits themselves. The ones who do not seek to be seen are often the ones who leave the strongest impression, not because they are trying to, but because they are not trying at all. The paradox is clear. In letting go of the need to be noticed, one becomes impossible to ignore. In the end, it is not the grand gestures or the carefully crafted appearances that truly captivate. It is the unspoken, the effortless, the things a woman does without realizing she is being watched. Men may not always articulate what they notice, but they feel it deeply. It is in the quiet confidence of how she carries herself, the energy she leaves behind, the authenticity in her movements, and the presence she brings to a moment. Attraction is not about performance, it is about presence. It is not about seeking attention, it is about being so at ease in oneself that attention naturally follows. The most powerful impression a woman can leave is not in what she tries to show, but in who she simply is. And that, more than beauty, more than perfection, more than any effort to be seen, is what truly lingers.